Hey everybody, tonight I got Rapheal Posey from Topeka, Kansas. Posey currently lives in Houston, Texas. He's a Highland Park graduate, went to Barton Community College, University of Texas, San Antonio. Posey, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
So, Posey, when you were at Highland Park, basketball-wise, you only played 2 years of varsity, but you said your sophomore year you played a little bit of varsity. What was that like knowing that deep down that you were good enough to play varsity as a sophomore, but you had to really wait until you were a junior?
It was rough, but being a competitor, just going in every single day, just trying to prove that I belonged, at this level, was important to me. I think that a lot of times, especially now, it's so easy to shy away from that, to say, man, I'm better than such and such. I should be playing right now. So I'm going to transfer to this school because I can play right now. One of the biggest things I think for me that I think, especially where I'm at now, that lacks is that tradition, the uh, loyalty, to that particular school that you're zoned to or that you grow up around. My mom went to Highland Park, all of her siblings, she has 11 of them, went to Highland Park. I went to school with every single one of my aunt and uncle's cousins, with the exception of three. They ended up going to Topeka High. But for the most part, my whole family went to Highland Park. And so for me, it wasn't about, yes, I wanted to play right away, but there was no way in the world I would have put on a jersey on anything, other than a Highland Park jersey. It just wasn't, that wasn't in me. The thought to leave never crossed my mind. And so for me, it was tough because I thought I was good enough. I thought I could have contributed and helped, that I believe it was that 98 team, to maybe get a little further than they did. But you have to pay your dues, and I could have sulked, I could have, went about it the wrong way, had a bad attitude about it. But my thing was I was gonna go in every single day and prove that you're not better than me, and that was my mind, that was my mindset with that whole situation.
Because your junior year, you were first team All City, and then your senior year, you were first team All City, first team All State, and City Player of the Year. So it was like, here you are as a sophomore, and then you finally get that chance as a junior, and you make first team All City. Then you go into your senior year, and you're first team All City, first team All State, and City Player of the Year. And then you guys were back-to-back league champs your junior and senior year, and you took third at state your senior year. So what was that like, just finally getting that chance in '99 and you just took off?
Well, here's the crazy part about that is, even going into my junior year, I don't want to say I was an afterthought, but I was an afterthought almost. Like, we've got X, Y, and Z, and we have him too.
Because you guys
And
had a lot of talent.
oh, we were loaded, and no doubt
Yes.
about it. They were all, we were all really close, my really good friends. But as a competitor, like, I felt like I should have been, at a certain point. And so the first game of the year, I came off the bench. Right, I'll never forget it. It was one of those moments that, where you grew up, uh, dreaming about that moment, right? I'll never forget, my best friend's brother Chevis. He would take us to the game when Tony Barksdale, and Jamel Anderson and all those guys would play. And I remember going to a game with them at the TIT. The TIT was at Topeka West, and after the game, we, like, following him, we're going to the scores table to see what Tony Barksdale did. Like, man, he was killing tonight. And so,
That
but my
sounds like what
junior
I
year,
used to do when you played.
yeah. So my junior year, I came off the bench that game, right? And, I led the game in scoring with 30 off the bench, the first game of the season at Topeka West. And I remember, like, seeing people, like, going to check and see the score and who did what. And it was one of those moments, like, okay, like, yeah, like, now it's go time now. And so I never looked back after that. And I just competed, that was the biggest thing, was just being able to compete and play with my friends, and we were all very competitive, man. But at the end of the day, it was about winning, and that's what we really stuck out to do, is just try to do something that has never been done at Highland Park.
So you were the starting quarterback of the football team. You still lead the city in all-time passing yards with 3,935 yards, and that's regular season only. I think it's Tyler Hurl from Shawnee Heights holds the record, including postseason, but you got it
Mhm.
regular season only. Like, that's a pretty good feat to have. You were the 98 and 99 first team All City both those years. So that'd be your sophomore and your junior year of high school. And you made the Shrine Bowl
That'd
team
be that was junior senior year.
junior
So
senior year.
football. Yeah,
Because
football
football
season.
was-
It's in
yeah.
the fall. So yeah, so that'd have been my junior senior year. But yeah, that's correct.
So would you say that you were better at football or better at basketball?
Um, that's hard to say, because I think football came more natural to me, because I probably had more coaching in football at a young age. Um, I played tackle football from the fourth grade, I believe. Um, and so for me, it was I had love for both. I think it's hard to say. I was being recruited more for football. I was being recruited to higher levels for football, but now knowing what
You,
I know, a
you
lot
had
of it is the numbers.
you had a lot of
Like
power
my
schools
size and
recruiting. Right.
I did. I was talking to coaches from Kansas State, um, Kansas, Oklahoma, um, because that was when the staff from Kansas State kind of split and Stoops went to Oklahoma. So I kind of was on their radar still when they went there. Um, I mean, there were several schools that I was in contact with. Getting it's funny because if you were getting handwritten letters, that meant a little more than if you were just getting a mailing list,
Right.
weekly articles, and
Exactly.
so I was getting those. And I tell my kids now all the time, like, they're like, yeah, I'm getting this and I'm getting that. Like, listen, it's like dating. It they're doing their part in building a relationship with you, showing you that they're there, that they're interested. But until they put a ring on it, until they ask you to sign on those papers, it's just a date. And
Right.
so
Right.
until they say, hey, we want you, and we're going to offer you a full scholarship, we'll send the paperwork tomorrow or tonight if you're willing to sign it. And until that happens, don't get your hopes up too much, because for me, as far as football, it literally came down to the week of signing day. I had K-State that was still on the radar. Kansas were pretty much my top two outside of the Division twos, Emporia State, those, and then like junior colleges. But Kansas and Kansas State were my two big schools. Well, Kansas State was just kind of like, we want a faster quarterback. And then, Kansas ended up pretty much saying like, hey, we offered this kid from Texas, if he doesn't want it, then it's yours. But, I was talking to these guys literally all the way up until the week of
Sign.
signing day, and for Kansas, it was literally a couple days before. And so, no, it was a, I wouldn't even call it a negative experience. It was a learning experience. And I think that in turn helped me for what I'm doing now, being able to give that wisdom and that experience to my players, football, or my students who are football, or my players who are basketball players, but my students who might be football players. Like, listen, man, don't get, like, just because they called you doesn't mean like that's where you're
They
going or
want
they
you.
want you there.
Right.
Yeah, they're doing their job, right? They're showing you some interest. They're flirting with you in a sense. Like, hey, hey, cutie, hey, can we exchange numbers? they're just keeping you at bay, right? And so I think it's important that they understand that, and so that they just don't put all the eggs in one basket, so that they just don't um, get caught up in the hype, because it's a business, and that's the biggest thing that I learned that firsthand. That it's a business, and so just being able to have that experience to be able to share with them and give them some insight, man, I wouldn't change it for the world.
So, what does it mean to you to still hold the city's all-time passing yards record?
Oh, it means a lot, in all reality, we weren't very good as far as record wise,
You had
you know,
receivers.
and so to look at some of the talent that we played against, to look at the wins or the teams that win. I mean, I played against a Hayden team that won state, I believe, twice my 4 years in high school. But my my highest passing yardage game was against them, and so and those guys that played on that team were some of my closest friends as far as my teammates that I played with growing up, and so like that meant a lot to me, and so to hold that record, knowing that you know record wise we weren't very good, we didn't win a whole lot, but to be able to know that I put in the work to be able to do that and still not, you know, I think it's a lot easier if you're going to do that if you're going 10-0 or 9-1, 8-2, you know, uh, before you get to the playoffs, because you're winning, you're putting up some points. That wasn't the case with us, and so for me, man, that's just a testament to my teammates, that helped me and contributed to that. Because I mean, I can throw the ball all I want to, if they're not catching it and getting out in space and making plays, and we're not even having this conversation. So big shout out to them.
So you you kind of you talked about the whole signing day ordeal. So you kind of chose
Mhm.
basketball over football just because of how that all went down. And you went to Barton Community College after high school. What was it about Barton that made you choose Barton?
So probably the biggest thing, my goal, right? Like I'm very visual. I'm a thinker. And so my goal was like I wanted to go play high major Division I basketball, like point blank period, or athletics. If I could have, if K State would have offered me for football, if Kansas would offer me for football, or
You were
the
gone.
offer would have went through for Kansas, I more than likely would have went there, because that was just my goal, right? So um, out of all the schools that were recruiting me, Barton was the one putting
You still, you
guys
still,
into the type of schools that I wanted to go to. Say that
you
again.
still have you still had football schools looking at you too, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could have went to pretty much any JUCO in Kansas. I could have went to Emporia State. They really wanted me. I don't remember if I don't think Washburn. I mean, I could have went to Washburn, but I think basketball was more so where they really, really wanted me to come there was basketball. Um, but but Barton was putting guys into the type of schools that I wanted to go to. So my my junior year, or my junior year, they had a guy get drafted. I was a big, I can't think of his name. He was a foreign guy, 7 foot. He got drafted, went to the Raptors, I believe. Um, Lamont, I think it's Lamont Roland, was the JUCO National Player of the Year. He went to LSU. So
Yep.
then my senior year, they had um, Eric Bush. He signed to a big school. Um, Jamal Davis signed and went to Cincinnati. They had Jackie, can't think of Jackie's last name. He went to UMass. And this is when, just after Marcus Camby, so they weren't, they were still like a more
They're good.
relevant team
Yeah, they
than
were
they are
good.
now. They were putting guys in these big time schools. I mean, Cincinnati was Bob Huggins' era when Cincinnati was
Yes.
big time Cincinnati.
Yes.
number one in the country, Kenyon Martin, like all of those things. So I'm like, man. So I took my visit, and so when I go, I'll never forget this. I go on my visit. We're playing an open gym, and I'm just kind of sizing everybody up and everything. I felt comfortable, and oh yeah, that guy's going to Cincinnati. He's going here. He's going here. He's returning. He's returning. So I remember just playing, and there's this guy, man. He's blocking shots. He's giving them a combo finger. He's talking. I'm like, oh, he's a big. Oh yeah, I'm like, yes. I get home, like, I know I'm going there. Like, it just felt right. So then I get to school, and this guy, his name is Ebi Ara. He ended up being a 2 guard at 6'4", 6'5", the most elite scorer I've ever seen. Scores elite at all 3 levels. And so the guy I thought was going to be my center played my position. But it was when I tell you, the best decision I made, because it was just one of those things where I was like, I realized just how good people were. Coming from small town Kansas, man, and you player of the year, you averaging this many points, and everybody's, hoo-hooing and hollering for you. But then now you really go see like this guy's being recruited by Michigan State, Oklahoma, Illinois. Okay, like this is different.
Now I see why he's being recruited by these
yeah.
schools.
So and just for informational purposes, like I could have handled that one of two ways, right? I could have got there thinking it was going to be one thing and it wasn't, and I could have sulked. I could have said, man, you know what? I'm transferring because there were other guys that weren't player of the year in Topeka that went on and played at other schools and started and played way more minutes than me as a freshman. But man, like me going there and playing with guys that eventually like went to UAB, Oklahoma, San Jose State, Jacksonville, Binghamton, all Colorado State, like that class, like they all went all kind of places. So I literally was a sponge my freshman year. Like I went from averaging almost 20 points a game my senior year to averaging 8 to 10 minutes a game my freshman.
You played in all 38 games, and you averaged 4.1 points per game and 38% from 3. And you guys took 7th place at the national tournament.
Yeah, so I could have handled it differently and pouted, and I know I'm better than such and such who's playing over there, so I'm going to transfer and go over there.
Decided after that year to say, okay, I'm going to go to Coffeyville. I don't want to be here. I'm going to go see what Coffeyville has to offer. I'm going to go see what Butler has to offer. Oh, I'm going to go play football now. I'm done with basketball. This is how basketball
I probably could have after 1 year, I probably could have easily just went and played football in JUCO, and somebody would have took me, But for me, man, I said, okay, like had to be honest with myself, right? Like this guy's better than me. Oh, you're going to the gym? Hold on, let me grab my stuff. I'm going with you.
I'm going. Yes.
Oh, you want to go to the weight room? I'm going too. We can eat later, like because. The thing that I don't understand about a lot of athletes now is that this guy's playing more minutes than you. This guy is honestly just better than you, but you leave the gym before he does, right? But you're expecting to play more than he does. You're expecting for him to come out the game for you to play, but you're not putting in any work, knowing that he's better than you. But the reality of it is they don't want to see it that way because that's my competitor. Like he's not better than me. I can guard him. If we play one-on-one, but that's not what it's about.
He's putting 10 more hours in the gym than you are, but you think you can guard him. You're at McDonald's eating, but he's another 100 shots.
or you're just sitting downstairs waiting for your parents to pick you up, knowing that they would have came 45 minutes later if you
or knowing that they ain't gonna be there for 45 minutes and he's still in there working out,
So instead of them calling and saying I'm outside and you grabbing your stuff and running to the car, you go sit and text and Instagram and all that. And that's the difference is for me, like I was a realist about my situation and about my skill set. and I lived in the gym. I was a gym rat. I was a student of the game. I watched guys that were better than me, and I picked up on all the little things. And that's, in all honesty, that started the summer going into my senior year when I first started playing AAU with Team Kansas. I mean, there were so many guys, man, that their skill set was just so much better than mine. Like, I mean, I was tough. You know, I could score, but athletically, I wasn't as athletic as a lot of them. I wasn't as tall as a lot of them. You know, coming from Highland Park, when you're just a bigger, stronger guy, they throw you on the block. So I didn't. And at the time, there was nobody really, you know, teaching guard skills. This is for us. It was things that we had to kind of try to do on our own and learn. And so for me, I was just stronger than a lot of guys. I was skilled. I had good footwork, so I played on the block. So when I went to that, I seen like, oh, like this kid I'm 6'2", he's 6'4", and we play the same position, and he's more athletic. You know, this kid is shorter than me, but his ball handling is better than mine. His court vision's better than mine. You know, he can get his shot off quicker than mine. And so I started picking up on all those things. So after I left AAU practice in Wichita or Kansas City, wherever we played, I would go home and I'm working on everything I seen them work on. So now by my senior year, my 3-point shot's a lot better. You know, we had more height, so I didn't have to play in the post, but because I had developed some more guard skills, it just helped me. And so just for me, like seeing that, like that's why I made that decision. It wasn't ideal, but it was the best decision I made to go to Barton County.
So I like how you worked really hard from your freshman and your sophomore year of college, because your sophomore year you guys had 32 games. You started 11 of them. You made 49 threes, 344 points. You averaged 10.8 points per game, and you were the third leading scorer on the team. So just to think, you went from averaging 4 points a game your freshman year to averaging 10 points a game your sophomore year. Like that just shows you how hard you worked in that off season.
Oh, definitely. You know, I definitely have to give Ra his flowers because, and you know, he was just being himself. You know, he was just doing what he did. He was a gym rat. He went to the gym. He worked out. But his confidence and belief in himself and the work, like it was through the roof. You know, and so for me, right, like that spilled over into my cup. Like I'm working out with him. Like I'm playing one-on-one against him. If I can guard him or if I'm competing with him, it ain't too many people that can do anything with me. And so for me, like that carried over into my day-to-day, my practice. When I come home for the summers, I'm coming to kill and destroy, you know. And that was just the competitive nature in me. That was me believing in the work, and that was just me building the confidence in the work that I was putting in and seeing the results there. So now when we get to the games, that's easy because I've seen that it worked, right? I've seen that I can do this. I've seen, you know, that everything I've been doing has now, like I've seen it work in summer league games and just pickup games, whatever it may be. I just got to stay the course, you know, and that was my biggest thing because, you know, like you said, right? Like even going in my sophomore year, I only started 11 games. We played 31. So I could have been pouting about that. Like, man, I should be starting. I'm a sophomore and all these new people. I'm the third leading scorer. Like, how am I coming off the bench? Like I could have handled it that way, but instead, listen, man, when my name's called, I'm going to be ready. And that was the biggest thing for me is, you know, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And so now when it's time, it's time. And, you know, and that was a big thing for me.
So you were supposed to go to Louisiana Monroe after Barton. You didn't end up going to Louisiana Monroe. You went to UTSA. What happened with the whole Monroe situation?
Man, so that there's a lot that even to this day I don't really truly know. I do know that Monroe offered me a full scholarship. They sent my scholarship papers. I was told to kind of like, man, because I was like, man, they sent my papers yet? No, they haven't sent them. So I was told to kind of wait. Well, I mean, they made you wait. You make them wait. Whatever. So I finally eventually sign them, right? Everything's good. This is in the spring. I go home for the summer. I'm working out. I'm playing. And 2 weeks, probably about 2 weeks, maybe a week, but I want to say it was about 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave to go to school. The coach that was, yes, the coach that was recruiting me to go there ended up calling me. I'm at my cousin's house who I was staying with. I'm in her basement. My phone rings. I'm the only one. I remember this like it was yesterday, right? So it's coach. I'm like, what's up, coach? Hey, he's small talk. So there were some problems with your scholarship papers. Well, what do you mean? Well, your scholarship papers are only good. There's an expiration date on those, right? So I want to say it was 2 weeks, maybe, or maybe 7 days. I don't know the exact date or the expiration time, but whatever it was, I signed and dated it after that time, which I was told to wait and make them wait. But I don't know no better, so fine. Sign them, date them, send them off. So there's a problem, because with your paperwork, it shows that you signed this after the expiration date. Well, we have some issues in our athletic department. Someone was stealing money, and so they're trying to figure out where they can recoup some. And so because your scholarship papers aren't valid, they're not going to honor your scholarship now. And so he's like, but, you had good grades and, I was able to find you some scholarship money and this, that, and the third. And so, you could use your Pell Grant money for this. I'm like, wait a minute. First off, no. Like, I earn the academic money. So if I'm supposed to be on a full scholarship, I need that, one. But two, like, my family don't got money like that. So you want me to use the only money I was supposed to get to kind of help me while I'm at school to pay for school? I said, I'm 13. I'll be 13 hours away from home. Like, nah, man. I was like, coach, I can't do it. I got to call you back. And in hindsight, it's crazy, Justin, because I was 18 years old, right? And now here's a decision where, like, I'm supposed to be leaving for school. My mom had set up a U-Haul. We're driving down. We're going. She's dropping me off in Monroe, Louisiana in 2 weeks. And now, like, that's either I have to use money and hope that we can scrape together some money to pay for whatever else, or I've got to find a whole new plan, right? So at 18, and it's crazy that I was that mature at that age, but I didn't call the first thing I did, I called my mom. I said, Ma, like, this is happening. Like, I don't, I just talked to them, blah, blah, blah. I told her the story. And I was just like, man, let me call my JUCO coach. And I called him. I said, Coach, this is what happened. Look, man, I'm not trying to stay in Topeka. Like, can I just come back there and work out, go to school, stay in class, work out, and until I can figure out, like, what's next? And then let me call you back. And so he ended up calling them, I'm assuming, called me back, like, yeah, let me call the office, whatever. He called whoever at Barton, and next thing you know, I'm packing my car back up, going to a place I thought I would probably never see again. And I went to Barton for a semester. And God works in mysterious ways, because UTSA, going into my sophomore year, wanted me to sign early. And I just didn't want to do it. I had a great summer. I felt like I had put in some work. I was going to be better. And so I was going to get more than just that. I bet on myself. And, so they was like, well, they didn't want to recruit they didn't want to recruit late. They wanted guys to sign early so they could be done. So, Coach, I get it. Go ahead and do that. And so I went back to JUCO. I'm there. And then I guess the word that I was
You're
still, or
just
I
you're
was
just
still
going to school.
and practicing. I was going to school and practicing with the team, and so word got, I guess, around that I was back in JUCO. And Coach Harris from Highland Park, he's good friends
Hank
with the
Harris.
coach from UTSA. Yeah, he's
Hank Harris.
was good friends. He was good friends with the head coach that was recruiting me, or that wanted me to come to UTSA. They found that I was still there, and then kind of weren't in a good spot, I guess, at that point in time in their season, and wanted me to, like, hey man, like, we want you, like, you can come a semester, whatever. And so I ended up going to Barton for that first semester, and then the end of 2003, going to UTSA. I set out that spring semester, and then I played the next 2 years.
So your first year at UTSA was probably a pretty special season for you. You guys played 33 games. You started 17 of them. You were 62 for 150 from three. You were just a sharpshooter from three. I can remember you in high school just shooting threes. You averaged 11.4 points per game, and you guys finished the year 19-14. But you won your conference tournament. You guys took tied for first in your regular season, but you guys won your conference tournament and punched your ticket to March Madness. What was that moment like for you, just to, because you grow up watching these guys on TV playing in the NCAA tournament, and you done punched your ticket to make it to the March Madness tournament?
Man, that, when I tell you, like, a surreal feeling, outside of having my kids and being married or getting married, like that moment, like, meant the world to me, because my goals were simple as far as basketball is concerned. Like, of course, I want to go to the NBA, right? Like, that's everybody's goal. I wanted to go to a Division I school, right? And then I wanted to play for a team where my name was on the back of my jersey, right? And then the last thing was, I wanted to play in the NCAA tournament. Like, I wanted to be a part of March Madness. I wanted to be on one shining moment, or my team, like, being shown on one shining moment. And so I after doing so, because even within our team, there was so much adversity that we went through early. We had two of our starters were ineligible. The year before, we were, if not last, like bottom 2 or 3 in the conference. And so I didn't want to come back to Topeka. Like, that was just my thing. And I talked to my coach about it. I said, Coach, look, like, can we stay here? Like, can I stay here? Like, I don't want to go back home. Like, I just want to stay here, be able to work out. Like, it's just nothing for me right now at this point in my life. Like, there's just nothing for me there right now. Like, my family's there, I can go visit them, but for me, just being there on a daily basis, like, I don't, like, can we figure out, I'll take classes.
Your mom was still in Topeka.
Oh, to this day, she's still there.
Yeah, you and your mom are pretty close.
Yeah, absolutely. I talk to my mom every single day. And so for me, I just didn't want that. Like, I knew for me and what I wanted to accomplish, like, I didn't need to go back there and live. And so ended up, like, they arranged it where everybody could stay. And so our whole team ended up staying in San Antonio that summer. We worked out, we lifted every day, we had open gym every day, we hung out, we bonded. And I think for that team, what made that so special was we started off kind of rocky because of some guys being ineligible, but we were close. And once those guys got back, we put in this offense, and we just started clicking, and we ended up winning 13 out of our last 15 games to clinch a share of our conference title and to win the conference tournament and punch our ticket. And the good thing was, we hosted the Final Four that year too. So we were the host school for the Final Four the year that we made it. So it was special, man. It was special.
You guys with your record though being 19-14, well, you guys were 19-13 at the time. You got to play the overall number 1 seed, Stanford,
Yeah.
Josh Childress, Chris Hernandez, Nick
Yes.
Robinson, like Mike
Yeah.
Montgomery was. We're talking about a team that was 30-1 at the time. They even beat KU earlier in the year. I can't think of who their only loss was to, but yeah, you got to play the overall number 1 seed with a 19-13 record. You guys end up losing that game 45-71, but you played 20 minutes. You went 1 for 8 shooting. You had 2 points, 6 rebounds. What was that game like?
You know, it's crazy because I remember like Selection Sunday and trying to figure out. We kind of knew you find out who the number 1 seeds are first, right? And so you start seeing
you guys
those.
knew you were in. You knew you
We
were
knew
in.
we were in. We just didn't know like who
how
or what
high of a
seed we
you were
would.
getting. Right.
Right. And so, as they start naming schools, you're like, okay, man, if we're a 16, like what would be the best number 1 seed to play where we could, realistically have a shot. And in all honesty, like we felt like they were the ones that we probably could have beat, just from an athlete, because they weren't. I don't remember them being very athletic, right? They had Josh Childress, who was 6'8", played the wing, but they were just really fundamentally sound. They were big, but we had some decent size, but we were quick. We had some athletes, and so we felt like if we had to play a number 1 seed, like I think we could beat them. And so in that game, with about 12 minutes to go, we got it down to 6. We got the game down to 6. They call a timeout, and then I remember like it was yesterday. It was 3 straight possessions. They get a stop, come down, execute a play, 3. Come down, get a stop, execute a play, 3. So it went from 6 to 15 in 3 possessions. But it was, that was just one of those deals where like if you want to be the number 1 seed, like you have to be able to execute defensively on those things. You have to be able to offensively be able to execute. I can't go 1 for 8. Let's keep it 100. Like I can't go 1 for 8 from the field. You know what I'm saying? That's the reality of it, and so you start talking about winning big time ball games, like you can't, there is no room for error when you're playing against a giant like Stanford at that time.
So the other 1 seeds was St. Joe, Kentucky, and Duke. So St. Joe ended up going they end up going to the Elite 8, and they lost to Oklahoma State. And then Kentucky lost in the second round of UAB. Duke went all the way to the Final Four. I don't know if they.
And Stanford lost to Alabama the next game. I remember that.
Yeah, the next game, 70-67.
To go to
and then your next year, your next year, your senior year, you guys played 27. You had 8 starts. You averaged 12.5 points per game. But you guys had a game at K-State. You probably still remember this game. You had 22 points, with 7 of those coming in the final minute of the game. Like, just kind of take us back. You find out you guys are you find out that you're coming back home for a game your senior year of college. You get to make a return home just an hour west of Topeka, right about an hour, to play at K-State, a school that was recruiting you for football. And
I was a Jayhawk fan, by the way.
Yes, and you're a Jayhawk fan, and you're showing up, and all your family's there. All your friends are there, and you put 22 on them.
That was man, that was just one of those those moments where the ball's going in at the right time. You trust your work, but we just didn't give up. We had a bunch of fighters. We had several new guys that year, and so we were still trying to find our groove as a unit. And so, coming off that tournament team and, then seeing on the schedule, like, oh man, we're going to K-State and then going to Wichita State. And it was right around Christmas break. So then I could ride home with my family and fly back later. That was big. And so for me, I just wanted to play well. It wasn't like, oh, I want to have this many points, and I just wanted to play well. My grandmother, that was the only collegiate game she ever seen me play. One of my aunts, that was one of the only collegiate games that she was able to see
And
me
that's kind
play.
of that benefit of being able to come back home for a game.
Yeah, and so that was big for me. The whole Coach Darling brought the whole Highland Park basketball team. So Kyle and Lamont and all of those guys were there, and so I just wanted to be an example. Man, y'all, if I can do it, y'all can do it type deal. I was a little closer to those two guys, but just the other ones, the ones that maybe didn't really know who I was, but had heard, like, look, man, like, man, he lived in the same neighborhood. He walked the same halls. And so I just wanted to play well because guys did that for me. I got to, just watch Tony Barksdale grow. And, I've been a Highland Park fan. Again, my entire family went to Highland Park. My best friend's entire family went to Highland Park. So it wasn't like I go to their house and we were going to a Topeka High game or whatever. Like, we were going to watch Highland Park play, no matter what it was. And so for me, being able, like, just that sense of pride of knowing that, man, like, underneath.
Right.
So, I grew up watching Michael Jordan, right? And I knew, and reading about him and knowing that in his NBA career, every single game he played with a pair of North Carolina shorts under his uniform. Like, I played with a pair of Highland Park shorts underneath my uniform because, like, it meant something to me. You know what I'm saying? Like that, and that's just the reality of it. And so, my idol did it, and so I did it, because I know what got me, and it just made me always remember where I came from. Like, right, the toughness that I had to have. It wasn't always, leading scorer, city player of the year, or whatever. It was guy playing JV thinking he belonged on varsity. He had to fight and scrape and scratch for every single thing that and so every time I put those on, like, it reminded me of that. So
Yeah, you went from starting
coming back
quarterback
home
to
and seeing that was
starting on
important.
JV. You went from
Yeah.
being starting in the fall to starting on JV in the winter.
And and the interesting thing about that, JB, is, like, living in Texas now, that happens a lot. It's at my school, and it's a lot of it's probably the right decision, but a lot of guys, as sophomores, they're good and they're starting varsity as sophomores on our football team who've been ranked in the state, and within the first 4 years of being open, won a state championship. I mean, we put guys in schools all over the country, right? And so they go from starting and playing meaningful minutes to either sitting on the bench and watching or playing JV, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'm going back to football, and so that's not easy to do. And so for me, I love basketball though, just as much as I love football. And so I was gonna stick it out, and I'm glad I did.
So UTSA wise, you ranked 39th on the career point list at UTSA with 713 points, and you only played 2 years there. And you ranked 6th in 3-point percentage all time at UTSA. So those are pretty impressive numbers for only playing 2 years out of college. So you played for Mike Briscoe at Highland Park, and you coached under Ken Darting at Highland Park. What have you taken from both of them and implemented it into how you coach now? Because you're an assistant coach at Shadow Creek High School in Houston, Texas.
In all honesty, I think the biggest thing is probably just making it about life, right? Like it was never um, just about basketball with Coach D, and that's one of the things that I've always respected about him. It didn't matter if you were the best player on the team or the worst player on the team. Like you had to have a certain grade point average,
Mhm.
and if you don't have that, you better figure out how to get your grade where you need to be, or you won't play. The accountability piece from top to bottom, whether you're the best player on the team or the worst player on the team, like everybody's going to be held accountable. Is everybody coached the same? Absolutely not, right? And that's just reality. Everybody doesn't respond to things the same way, and so you have to understand, how to coach certain guys, and coach them in certain ways. But I think if I could just point out one thing, which I think covers all the other things, that it was always bigger than just basketball. He was, you know, it's no secret, Highland Park, you had a lot of guys who were being raised by single mothers, and athletics was the one thing that kept us out the streets, or kept us from joining gangs or getting into trouble. And so, those single mothers counted a lot, on those coaches, for that, to kind of help them when they weren't around. Because I mean, at the end of the day, realistically, they're probably working 2 and 3 jobs to keep the lights on, or to make sure they had what they need, or to feed the family. And so, you know, and they relied on those coaches, to be that for them.
Mhm.
And if you're not teaching um, life moments through basketball, then you're doing those kind of kids a disservice. Now you can go to some suburban schools where they're going to get the discipline and the structure and everything else that they need, from
Yeah.
at home. But Highland Park wasn't that kind of place, right? And so now, when it's only about basketball, then you're teaching these kids that it's all about basketball. So now when they go to the collegiate level, and it's like, well, listen, man, if you're not going to listen to me because you think you're better than, Joe over here, or, you think you know more than me, then you can take this bus ticket and go home, because I'm going to get on the road. And there's another guy that I'm already recruiting that's going to be here next year, or depending on the
Yes.
topic, he might be here at the semester, right? Like that was one of the things at Barton that I learned is, we went through the first semester of school, and in JUCO, you get out of school like early December, like the first week and a half of December, and
You
you
come
don't
back
have
for
another
5 days,
game or practice until after Christmas break. And then when you
and you
get
yeah.
back on the 2nd of January, there's 4 more guys that just showed up. You know what I'm saying? So you don't get to just do what you want to do and be uncoachable, because if that's the case, I'll find somebody else that's going to do what I asked them to do. And so when
Yes.
when you don't get that structure, that, like, listen, man, life doesn't work like that, right? You don't get to just sit in class and do nothing and think the teacher is just supposed to give you a grade, and then
Yes.
when you're not, like, oh, I'm like, no, that can't happen. Like, that's not how life works. And so then what happens is they go to school, and then they figure that out. And then now their school wasn't even, it's never been their thing. They just kind of did it because I played sports, or I halfway did it. And maybe this teacher, because I played sports, just pushed me along or whatever. And so now,
These 3
um,
teachers gave me a passing grade because I was a star basketball player. These 3
and so
teachers
now,
I actually
yeah,
yeah.
look, and so now basketball is not easy anymore, and school is not easy. I'm gonna just go back home, and now I'm just gonna be at
Yeah.
home, and that's unfortunate, man, because like so many of our kids have been disserviced because of that, and that's the one thing I learned, and I always told myself, like, if I ever got to the point where I'm not willing to do the things, right, like go open the gym for the kids, and be in the gym 3 and 4 hours a day in the summer, or whatever I need to be, like, if I'm not willing to do those things anymore, then I've got to get out, because I'm doing them a disservice if I'm not. right? And
So
so
yes.
that's the big thing. But that's probably the biggest difference with that.
So when you got done at UTSA, you went to school to be a teacher, correct?
No, no, man, listen. When I was in high school, I would have bet my life savings, future life savings, and anybody else's. I would have never became a teacher ever.
Because
I tell
after
listen, I tell my students this. I tell my students this all the time. Like, why would I want to go have a job to deal with a bunch of kids that act like you, like my friends that gave teachers hell every day? Like, why would I want to go pick a job that's the criteria? Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, I know it's going to happen. I would have never just picked that, right? So for me, I wanted to go and wear suits every day, work in this high-rise building in a big downtown in a big city, and dress up every day and do something like that. So I went to school. My degree's in business marketing, and so when I did that, like that's what I wanted to do. Well, when I graduated, this is around the time that like multi-level marketing was like a really, really big thing. And so every job that I applied for, it was like type in marketing on monsterjobs.com, type in marketing. There was really no true marketing jobs. A lot of it was like that kind of stuff. Like I remember we were trying to move to Kansas City. I was looking for a marketing job there. Oh yeah, we're doing interviews on this day. We drove all the way down there. It was like a multi-level marketing where they're selling like Royals tickets door to door. I'm like, this is not what I went and got a degree for.
I didn't want to be a Kirby vacuum salesman, right?
Man, that's what it was. That's what essentially what it was going to be like. And so for me, I was just like, man, I've got to figure it out.
So you end up moving back to Topeka, and you started teaching at Highland Park. You were like a para, right?
I had a degree and I was making $8 an hour. Like that's crazy, right? Like who goes to college to get a degree to then make $8 an hour? Like that doesn't make any sense. But that was that was it.
So was my freshman year your first year?
My first year at Highland Park was 2005, 2006 was my first year at HB. As a parent.
Okay, so my first year at school was 06, 07. So it would have been
that was the first year we won it. That was the year we went 25-0.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting to next. So while you were there being a para, you were also assistant coach on the basketball staff under Coach Darting. And you were on the staff, I think you were on there for 3 years.
3.
Because your last 2 years, you guys went 25-0, and then you went 24-1. So it was in a way, it was like you finally got your state championship you didn't get when you played at Highland Park, but here you are as a coach, and you finally you got 2 of them.
Back to back.
What was that moment like, seeing those guys win it and knowing that you wanted to win one as a player, but in a way you just got yours right now?
I think the biggest thing for me, just coaching in general, was giving them something at that age that I felt like I didn't get. Right. And so, I mean, you think at that year, those seniors would have been 18 in 2005, 2006. I would have been 24, 25. Right. So I wasn't far removed from where they were. Some of those guys literally came and watched me as freshmen, when I was still playing. They seen firsthand, so they're going to be more open to like listen to me, because they were going to think I was cool because we're closer in age. We kind of like the same music still, that kind of stuff. Coach D was older. Coach B was older. Calhoun was he's a little older than me. Terry's older than me and Calhoun. Not to be telling people's age or whatever. But just from a perspective standpoint, like they have a guy who went to the same school I'm playing for, was known as a really good student athlete here, looks like me. And so now, of course, they're going to be open to listen to a lot more, not a lot more, but they're going to be open to me, right? They're going to listen to what I'm saying and take it because they've seen the body of work firsthand, not like, oh, look up these numbers, whatever. They've seen the body of work firsthand. So, I remember that first year we went 21-5, I believe, or 21-5, I believe, or 21-4. I can't remember that first year. We didn't lose a whole lot, but we played in the state championship game and lost. And I remember the look on Kyle and Lamont's faces, and I grabbed them both. I grabbed them both. I said, "Hey, man, like, I want you to remember this feeling, right? And every single time you step between these lines, this summer, this spring, when you get tired, when you want to go home, think of the feeling you have now and understand that if you don't put in that work, if you don't stay that extra time, it's possible, very well possible you'll feel this again, right?" I remember telling them that. I told them that. Summer goes by, fall's happening. Now we're in we start practice, we're going, we're playing, we're winning. Next thing you know, you're 12-0, you're 15-0, you're 17-0. And now it's kind of starting to get like, listen, man, like, you guys are on the verge of doing something special. Just don't get caught up in that though. Just make sure you're stay the course. Right, everything prepared. Do the same things you've been doing to get to this point, and we did it. Now, next thing you know, we're 20-0, and we're in the playoffs, and now it's happening. And then we end up beating McPherson in the state championship game.
But
and Kyle came up to me.
The problem was
Kyle came up to me and was like, "Yeah, Pose. Hey, remember when you told us? Remember that feeling? We ain't gonna have that feeling no more." Like they remembered that. Yeah, and I had kind of forgot about it, to be honest. Like, yes, it was something to tell them to kind of make them feel better, but it was true, right? But it was more so of a comforting statement. Like, listen, man, like, your grind's got to get bigger now. Remember this feeling. You didn't do enough last year to deserve that, apparently. So now you've got to continue to grind, get better, improve, whatever.
right.
And I've never been a part of a team where, your two best players are essentially your two hardest workers. I think Lamont and Kyle were the perfect yin and yang, right? Like, Lamont was going to lead by example. Kyle was going to be his voice. Right? Lamont was a man of very few words. He just wanted to get to it. And then what happened was when he spoke, it was like, oh, okay, now it's time to go. You know what I'm saying? So when you have that, man, they were just the perfect duo as far as their personalities,
That whole team
skill
was
set,
like a
and what
machine.
they brought.
Yes, that team was kind of like a machine. You had Kyle and Lamont as your senior leaders, but you also had Adrian who could hit a three. Rico can shoot from anywhere. You had Devontae coming in. You had Cannon. Like, it was like a orchestrated, just musical. Like, it just rolled. But then when they got to state, you had to play Seaman for a third time. You had to beat them for a third time. Then you had to play, which is arguably the best team that they've played all year, in Bishop Miege, who had Travis Relaford go to KU, Willie Reed go to St. Louis, who played in the NBA, Trevor Relaford go to Alabama. They had Justin McKay.
Was Isaac Miles on that team, or was he after the year after?
I think he was the year before. I think he was already gone.
Okay.
And then you had, but that Miege team was loaded.
Yeah.
Loaded.
Yeah.
And I think they beat them by 5.
Yeah.
It was
crazy. You just talk about, man, just being locked in, And I think, you talked about having to beat Seaman 3 times. I think when it comes to that, that's more so on the coaches. They always talk about, they say it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year, but I would think, it's harder to think you can beat a team, once after they beat you twice than going into a game knowing you've already beat this team twice. So you can beat them. I think from a coaching standpoint, you have to just make sure that they go in mentally ready. Not mentally like, man, we beat them already. Like that's when it gets hard. But if you go in knowing and locked in, like, man, yeah, we beat them, but we got to come to play. Like we mean business. We're not just showing up, And I think what makes it so hard, or why people say that's so hard, is it's easy just to show up when you beat somebody twice and you have to play a third time. Whereas that team that's lost twice is going to come in a little more focused because they know if we don't stand a chance, right? And so for
Right.
them, that's a testament, to Coach D and the coaching staff, having those guys mentally prepared to play. Man, those seniors led that team. Those seniors, we just had to, coach the X's and O's, but we very rarely or really ever had to coach effort, because your best players, are practicing the hardest. They're leading everything because they want to go out on top, And so when you have that kind of talent with that kind of mentality, with all of the other guys that are just willing and ready to follow, man, it's a hard team to beat.
So you're an assistant coach now at Shadow Creek High School.
Yes.
You guys are kind of located at a suburb of Houston, I think it is. You
Pearland.
guys, your schedule is crazy. You guys went 31-3 this year, and you lost in, I believe, regionals.
The second round. We lost in the second round this year.
So 31-3, and you guys lost in the second round. That's crazy because you guys play a lot of games. And if you guys,
the state
winning,
champion, the state champion in 6A this year went 40-0.
Wow.
Plano East.
I seen you at the Hayden at Washburn Roll game earlier this summer. I mean, this winter, just a couple weeks ago, and you kind of told me how your season was formatted. Kind of go over that.
So just as far as games, you have so many teams in your district, and then each district is in a region. And so basically they split the state up into 4 regions, and then they take the top 4 teams out of each district. They make the playoffs. And so then they basically make almost like the NCAA tournament bracket but like what teams go where. So the first place winner of this district plays the 4th place winner of this district, and 2 versus 3, and vice versa on the other different parts of the bracket. And so as you go along in your district schedule, you can kind of see like who you're potentially going to have to match up with, and see, on your route to try to get to the state tournament. Texas is just way bigger than Kansas. So here, in order to win state, you have to win 7 games. In Kansas, it's only 5. And then here, state is only the Final 4, and then Kansas state is 8 teams. And then you also play a 3rd place game, where here, once you lose, you're just done. And so that's one of the biggest differences as far as that. One of the other big differences athletically as a whole here is, so we have what's called athletic period. So where whatever sport you play is a part of your daily schedule, right? So we have 7 periods. If you're in varsity football, baseball, or basketball, varsity or JV football, basketball, or baseball, you have athletics 5th period every single day of the school year. And like you go there, and during that period, you can do whatever you want as far as coaching. I mean, you can work on plays, you can do skills and drills, you can hold like a 55-minute practice every day during that time if you want to. There's no restrictions on that. Sometimes we do weights. Typically during the season, we might do weights during the period, but out of season, we try to use weights for after school so we can use that time to do whatever we need to do basketball wise. And then like soccer, boys and girls soccer is like first period, but every single day, no matter what sport you play, you have whatever sport you play athletic period during the designated period, whatever period that is. So could be first, could be seventh, could be fifth, depending on the sport you play, depends on what period that is, and then depending on the school district. Because I've been in a district where varsity athletics is first period. I've been in a district where it's the last period of the day. So it just depends, how the district decides to do it. But no matter what, you'll have a class scheduled period that is designated to that particular sport.
So I brought that up with Coach Kelly, Carlos Kelly, after you told me that at Washburn Roll that day. And he said there's actually some schools in Kansas that already do it.
Really?
There is some schools in Kansas. They call it zero. He said they call it zero period, where it's like they show up to school early, like an hour early, and they'll work out or do whatever, and then they go into school. So it's there's some schools in Topeka that do it. I don't think there's any in Topeka yet.
Well, that's similar, but like we don't. But ours is during the school.
But yours
school starts at 7:20.
It's an actual school class, right?
It's a class. So like we have guys that come in and lift, the hour before school or put up shots or whatever they want to do. But coaches can't be involved in that, right? But they can come, and if the weight room's open, they can lift. If gym's open, they can shoot. Coaches just can't be in there coaching them. But like this is actually. School starts at 7:20, and first period is soccer. At 7:20, you're getting dressed, and 7:20, you're out on the field and you're practicing, and then class is over at 8:12 or 8:15, and so you just have to make sure I have time to get in and do whatever. But yeah, ours it's actually during this. It's not like a before or after school, because we still have that too, where we can. Have weights after school. And it can be basketball related, just not like with the basketball. So we can go lift weights, after school or before school, but we couldn't do anything like with the basketball, so to speak. So yeah, we still do that too, but we do most of that after.
Robert Townsend, what did he mean to you?
Man, Rob was big for me. I lost my starting point guard after my junior year going into my senior year, and which he was very good. Chris McMillan, rest in peace. He was like I lost him. He ended up getting into some trouble and going to Mount Zion my senior year, and so Rob was my point guard. Rob and Donnie Jones, the sophomores, right? So now I go into my senior year. I'm supposed to have a senior point guard, and now I'm playing with two sophomores. But their willingness to learn, their willingness to compete, and just talent level, man. Rob's talent level was insane. I didn't get to see. I was in college, so I didn't get to see, full games or anything. But I've seen clips and things, and I know I've seen what he can do. Sometimes during the summer when I came back or whatever, but, just, talking to Coach D a lot about, him and how he took the torch, because, the torch was passed. That was the great thing about Highland Park, man. And it was just when the torch is passed to you, man, just don't put it out. You know what I'm saying? Just don't put it out. Continue to carry it, continue to respect it and keep it in good hands, man. And Rob, I couldn't be more proud of being able to pass that to him and him, doing what he did, because he was kind of like the changing of guard, so to speak, with Coach Briscoe and Coach Darding. And he was like that bridge between the two, to where now, he had things one way and then now he had to go and adjust. And it's tough, when you've been in a program that long and then there's just a change of guard and it's somebody new that does something completely different, a completely different way of going about it. And I thought he did an amazing job of being that bridge and now starting, of what was to come, with like the Busters, the Therons and Hanks, the Lamonts, and just being able to now like take our version of it and then now take it to a whole nother level as far as winning, and winning what everybody else didn't
And
get.
that's really what happened. Briscoe won a lot of games, and then Darting came in and just got championships, and that's really all that happened.
Yeah,
that is.
It was crazy to be a part of that, after, and kind of see, from the outside looking in, man, you always know, like, yeah, man, like, he was this or he was. I used to watch him. I knew he was gonna do good, but to like be inside on the inside and now see the work and like, man, they got a state championship because we used to talk all the time about just the level of talent versus one era versus the other, and it wasn't
Yes.
it wasn't it wasn't close. It wasn't close at all. Right? But
that's still a topic of discussion. I kind of talk to people about that because I feel like you guys, like, I feel like Briscoe should have had at least 5 championships or maybe 6. But yeah,
man, listen, I'll say this because I've had this conversation with him, so I don't mind saying it. But I think the biggest difference between having those championships later and not having them in those 90s, early 2000s was that first seed. The difference in the approach. I've never. It's just so many different things that happen, right? And again, they didn't have more talent. None of Coach Darting's teams had more talent from top to bottom. They didn't have more talent. They were just better teams, right? And I think they were better teams because of the coaching, because of the demands of being. There was no compromising, like playing hard. There was no compromising making the right play versus not making the right play. It's not even up for discussion. That I don't care who you are, right? Like that's not going to win you the game that you need to win, And so, like, being a part of one and then coaching and winning a part of the other, like I can tell you firsthand, like that was the difference.
You married your high school sweetheart Jasmine in 2017. You guys have 2 kids now. What's life been like since you got married in 2017? 2 beautiful girls.
No, we got married in 2008. So we're going
I got the wrong date. My bad. Yeah.
No, you're good. No, we got married in 2008. We got married in 2008. It was good, man. I think, being in high school and, having a girlfriend and, everybody, she played basketball, I played basketball, everybody's like, oh my God, you two. There was always a lot of pressure placed on us about being married and when are you going to do this and when are you going to do that. And I think we did a good job of just doing us. You know what I'm saying? Like, just that. Like, I don't care what anybody else expects us to do. Like, let's do what we want to do. Like, if you're not ready, I'm not ready. Then
right.
Yeah,
this is my thing. Yes.
And I think one that was important, and I think that's what's also helped us have longevity. Is that we were able to, just we did it our way, and that we didn't do it because somebody else said do it, and then we're both miserable because we weren't ready for it or because that's not what we wanted to do. It was more so, like, yes, I mean, of course I'd like to, right? But right now it's just not the time. We weren't ready. And to be honest, knowing what I know now, I probably would have waited a little longer to make sure some other, you know what I'm saying, just to make sure it's just crazy. And hindsight's always 2020. It has nothing to do with, her, but more so just like as a man, I would have liked to have had more stuff in order to where when this happened, all these things are in place and not have to work towards that. But I also think that's the cool thing is that, we've had to work towards some things together. And so you appreciate it a lot more, because of it. It's not just something that is like, oh, I'm entitled to, or, well, this is how it's always been. Like, well, we know it hasn't always been like that. And so now we're to the point where we can, maybe do this or that. And it's more appreciative or more appreciated because of, the journey, to get to that point. And I think that's important in any and everything in life, man, is that journey. And, being in sports and being, coaching, young men and dealing with young students, male and female, man, that microwave mentality is, not wanting the journey, wanting it right now. And yeah, like I'm good right now. Like, why ain't I starting? How come he's playing more than me? How come I don't
Yes.
get to do that? He does. Like one, pay your dues, but two, man, just like stay the course. Like run your race. Because if you look, man, there were people who played varsity way before I did in basketball. There were people who started way before I did in basketball. But the end of my senior year, like I worked towards that. So I could have pouted and went and, did all these kind of things. But you just got to stay the course, man. Run your race and take your time, do you.
How busy do your kids keep you?
Whoo, man. So now Ryan's a little older. She's 5, so she's in school. But Riley is in track, and summer track is nonstop. They practice 3 days a week. So now when we start back to school next week, she'll practice 3 days a week, and then track meets on weekends. And this goes from pretty much April to the end of June. And then if she qualifies for regional or junior Olympics, it goes all the way up until school starts in August. So, I mean,
Wow.
and I mean, like, and the races that she runs, like she can be the first race of the morning. So we're there at 5:30 in the morning, setting up camp and getting stuff so she can be comfortable. We can be comfortable. And then she might run the 4x4, which is the last race of the day. So you're literally there from 5 a.m. to depending on if it's a good ran track meet. Yeah, man. So it's once Ryan starts to do whatever, she starts to be interested in, it'll be nonstop, man. But I love it. It's just gives them opportunities, man. I always say, I think every person who plays sports should have to referee. And I think every other person should have to work in some sort of service position to see just how hard those things are. But it also teaches you a lot, discipline, working well with others, not speaking out of emotion. I mean, there's just so many different things those things teach. And so I think that's important. So I love that she loves to do it. I don't make her do it. I ask her, hey, do you want to do it? She's like, and I'm like, ooh, I might have a summer this year. And she's like, no, I'm going to run. I'm like,
oh, there we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it for the world, man. I want her to have those opportunities because especially track, track is similar to wrestling. The self-discipline, the eating, I can't eat tonight because I got to weigh in tomorrow. Like you think track is during the summer, which that's when most kids do what?
I might get slower.
Yeah, well, they swim in the summer. Well, swimming is one of the worst things you can do when you run track. So they don't like them to swim the week of the meets. Well, if we're running every weekend, she doesn't ever really get to swim in the summer. So the fact that she's willing to sacrifice those things to go run track of all that, I'm like, listen, man, keep it up, because no matter what, like the discipline, right, it's teaching you, it will take you so far in life. So I'm excited for her.
If you can say anything to your teenage self, what would it be?
Ooh. Do more. Like, do more, like everything. Do more in the classroom, do more athletically. You thought you was working out, but there's somebody else working out twice as hard. That scholarship offer is going to come down to you or them, right? And so now, when it comes down to who's doing the work the best and the most, who's going to come down to? I didn't want to run track, right? I just wasn't. I wasn't fast, so I was thinking of it from a competitor standpoint, like, man, I'm not gonna win no 100, no 200. I'm not running track. I'm not gonna win, right? I'm a competitor. I want to win. I'm not running just to run. But then fast forward to my senior year of high school, K-State tells me that they loved me, but they need a quarterback who's faster. Well, guess what? If I'd have ran track for 3 years, probably would have had a little more speed. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that scholarship offer's there. So just do more, man. Do it all, and just do more. That was the biggest. If I can do anything, I'd go put up more jump shots. I'd go do more ball handling drills. I'd go run more hills. I'd go run track. And so now it's like, man, if I would have done that, and I think when you've done all you think you can do, then it's more so like there's no regrets, and I felt like I did for the most part, especially with basketball. But knowing what I know now is like, man, I should have did more. I should have did this. I should have did that. So I don't regret any of it, because it allows me to now be a better coach when everything happens for a reason. And so I definitely would tell myself, just do more.
Well, Posey, I appreciate you coming on here tonight. Posey or
yeah,
Coach
man.
Posey.
Thanks for having me. Man,
both the same.
Everybody still calls me Posey, man. It's all the same.
Hey, I appreciate you, man, a lot.
Yeah. So, thanks for having me.
Hey, everybody. Coach Posey has always been somebody that I've always looked up to, because he was in high school when I was growing up. And then when I got to high school, my freshman year, which to me was like a big moment, and it really scared me, because here I am going to be a freshman in high school. I'm at Highland Park. I've always wanted to go to Highland Park. I didn't play no sports. And here's Coach Posey. He's a pair in my history class, and he just helped me get through that big freshman year for me. And extremely grateful for him. I was a manager on the basketball team my freshman year, and Coach Posey was one of the coaches. I had Kyle Weems. So I had people there watching over me and watching out for me. And Coach Posey was one of them people. He let me do stuff with him and stuff. So extremely grateful for him. I wish nothing but the luck for him and his family in the future. And thank y'all for watching. Thank you, everybody, for watching another episode of Catching Up with JB. When I started on this journey of wanting to do my own podcast, I didn't know how far I was going to go. I didn't know what kind of guests I was going to get. And now you've seen the guests I can get and the guests I'm going to get. We're not done anytime soon. We're still climbing. And I don't really know what the end game is here yet, but I'm going to go as far as I can with this whole situation that I've done gave myself. So thank you to everybody for watching my shows. And don't forget, like my videos and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It don't cost to subscribe, but the more subscribers I get, the more chances I have to make money down the road if I hit the right amount of subscribers. So thank y'all for watching what you guys have. And don't forget to share my videos to your friends, family, and everybody. And my next couple guests are going to be huge, huge guests. So hope you guys look forward and hope you guys like what I've done so far. Thank you. Surprise everybody, make a run to a championship game and win a title to get in the NCAA tournament.